Hello. It's October 20, 2021. It's a weekly CI SIG Node CI subgroup meeting. Hello, everybody. Let's go into agenda. I can present. So, yeah, first item on agenda is Francesca. Is Francesca here today? I can see you.
Yes.
Yes, I am. Okay. Oh, yeah, this topic. So, okay. So it's simple and hard at the same time. Some tests, they don't want to have dependency on the node state, of course, but still they do. Because, for example, an easy example is the test which wants to stress out the node. And if it fails, who is in charge of clean up all the pods which needs to be created because you want to saturate the node? Memory manager. Memory manager doesn't want to assume the memory fragmentation. How could it know? Still, it tries to do some allocation. And sometimes it may fail for completely bogus reason because the memory is fragmented because, depends what ran before, which you want to keep because it's good to have test lane, randomized order of tests. And there are more of that, but we have this underlying issue, and I don't have any good idea about to tackle this if we want. I guess we want to tackle that, but I have no idea. So I'm bringing to this forum what we can do.
So all of those tests, well, I don't know about the memory manager test. The container runtime restart tests are serial and they're disruptive. So like they should only ever run, like that's the only thing that should be running on that node. And the node should be back in a good state before it runs the next test.
True, but if I'm not mistaken, all the serial disruptive tests, they run together. I mean, in a random order.
Serially.
Yes, serially, but all of the disruptive.
Yeah, but every test should clean up after itself.
Okay, that's a good answer, but that means we need to have a careful review that each test which is supposed to leave the node good actually does leave the node in a good state, which is, of course, it's the right thing to do, but it's non-trivial ever considering the state we are at this point in time. I mean, I'm just trying to face the unfortunate reality. I completely agree with you about how it should be.
We're sadly in the position of, unless we move every one of those tests to its own distinct node, we have no choice but to fix them. Like every one of the serial disruptive tests kind of relies on the fact that every other serial disruptive test cleans up after itself. They're not particularly great at doing it right now, which is part of why some of them are so flaky. But like piecemealing out a couple of tests into like some other suite isn't going to help us actually fix them.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Like it falls into the sad category of a couple of us are going to spend like 3 weeks being annoyed at really badly written tests.
And we won't merge them again in the future.
Yep.
So with the elimination of dynamic kubelet config, will we need to restart kubelet between every test, or maybe we can enforce
Not
that?
every test.
Yeah, but if we can enforce it will be like cleaner cleanup.
It depends on the test, but in general, I already have PRs that get rid of the dynamic configuration. I don't have restart problems under the PR. I have some additional problems with serial tests, like eviction, disk pressure problems, the Darling eviction tests. It puts environment under the disk pressure, and from some reason, on the next test after it, the eviction pressure does not exist under the node from the scheduler perspective, but it still exists under the node from the kubelet perspective, and the pod just failed to start.
So
I saw a lot of this one.
the dynamic
I don't
kubelet
have a
config
problem
test.
with.
Or sorry, go ahead.
There's no
But-
scheduler in the ETE node tests. The test infrastructure just assigns the pod itself.
Okay, I understand. But we, at least we check the available condition under the nodes. Like after the eviction test, we have some check that like will verify that it does not have this pressure condition under the node, and only after it will continue. Like under the eviction test, I also saw some workarounds that like try to start pod under the after each to verify that it really can start the pod. That also some kind of hack. Like I don't know.
Yeah, the eviction tests have a bunch of weirdness. A lot of the time when when pressure comes back is because of pre-pulling images that are expected to be there. And so you kind of have to do this awkward like dance of cleaning up after yourself, waiting for a runtime to clean up, and then re-pulling images, and then checking for stuff.
Okay, I see.
Um,
Yeah, maybe it's definitely the problem because I saw mostly like most failures that I had on under my local environment was after system critical test. It has some like tests that verifies that the system critical pods not evicted during the eviction.
yeah, that test is cursed. I spent like 2 days looking at it and went, I'm gonna come back to this, and then haven't had time since.
I see.
So just jumping back to something you said earlier about the dynamic kubelet config tests and getting rid of them. The dynamic kubelet config restarts are like really flaky. Like half the time the kubelet just doesn't restart. And so as a result of that, then like the whole test job fails. And so I would imagine when we move away from this, we really don't want to be restarting the kubelet unless we absolutely need to for the test. You know, there are a bunch of tests that like genuinely do need a kubelet restart, but there's lots of them that really, really don't. And the only reason that they were restarting the kubelet was because we needed like a certain config when the test started up. I think that we should try wherever we can to like separate that. Like there's some frustration right now. Like I think almost all of the memory manager tests are, serial tests right now. But like we really don't want that because then we can't run them as part of a like PR like pre-submit because like you can't run them in parallel. So I think that we really need to go and like for anything that needs like a super special config, we probably want to split that out into its own job. We potentially can do it in a serial context where we go and we write a new kubelet config and then restart the kubelet. But like, I don't think that as a general matter of course, we want to be doing that if at all possible.
But again, like if you get rid of dynamic kubelet configurations, I did not see any problems with restarting the kubelet. It's like for me it's worked always after I get rid. The problem that we have with the dynamic configuration is because it's some like under E2E node we have some restart loop that like monitoring the state of the kubelet, and once the kubelet is stopped, it will restart it automatically. Like we have some automation restarting of the kubelet, and we have restart kubelet under the test commands, and these two restart commands are not in sync. So it's some race condition and stuff like this. So restart loop enter stuff like this.
Part of why dynamic kubelet config is so flaky is partially just the way we have the systemd units and stuff set up right now. The actual like test harness for how we run the kubelet is like a kind of accidental mess in a lot of ways, in that we have some stuff that handles running things without systemd, presumably because, you know, at some point in time we had test infrastructure that didn't have systemd. But at this point, like, we just have like various parts that assume we do, various parts that assume we don't, and nothing is particularly consistent or solid when it comes to that. And so I think we have some issue like between the way we set up systemd units and the way dynamic kubelet config tries to restart stuff. and also like our own explicit restarts of the kubelet that just kind of like don't play together nicely. So if we need to do manual restarts after we remove dynamic kubelet config, it should be more stable than it is today.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, like when we had also dynamic kubelet configuration, it's not that like dynamic kube configuration include into it like restart of the kubelet. I checked the dynamic configuration code, and it just like it configured the stuff and it stops the kubelet, and it is expecting that someone else will start it again. It's also pretty funny.
Yeah, I think that was wrong. Like I've seen that, and a lot of the time the kubelet doesn't get restarted, and then the test times out. And so I think we should probably not rely on magic for the kubelet to get restarted. If we expect it to restart, we should just restart it.
Yeah, I'm kind of planning on rewriting a bunch of the kubelet lifecycle stuff in tests, mostly because what we have today is kind of just, in some cases, broken. Like it doesn't clean up after itself when you finish the test suite even. Just need to get around to it.
And coming back to Francesca's question, do we like? And the reason I mentioned restarting kubelet after every test is there any way we can clean everything after every single test? So maybe we can have rounds with clean restarts and like clean everything, and rounds without it, and this way we can understand the flakiness or like failure to. Like we need to detect failures to clean up, and it's not easy to detect failure to clean up if next test is fails instead of like test that failed to clean up. So maybe there is an easy way to force, like I want to check the test actually passing, so I want to run it into configuration that cleans up after every single execution, and then if it passes, then I'm confident that test is fine, and I need to find the dependency.
Just want to say that I agree that the management infrastructure to which manage the system and everything else is a mess, and we should probably rewrite it. Besides that, I was listening because really I agree with pretty much everything, but still I don't see a good way besides carefully reviewing the test, which seems a bit fragile to me. So
it is. I think we're built on a house of cards here. There's not much else we can do at this point.
No. I just want to say that I'm listening and I'm participating, but I really don't have any good idea, unfortunately.
But we still have some like issues with the memory manager. I know that Alexei provided some pull requests, but I think he closed it because we had some discussion under it with a lot of people. But the problem is that like memory manager requires some amount of huge pages, like for additional verifications, and sometimes, not every time, under the serial lane, it failed to allocate the specific amount of huge pages. If I remember correct, it's something like 256, something like this. And the test never failed under the separate lane because probably just it has more memory under it, and like it runs less tests, so the memory not so fragmented, and it always succeeds like to allocate the memory. So my question: do you want just to remove the memory manager from the serial lane for now, because we anyway have the separate lane for it, so it's not a big problem.
I think that removing from the serial lane gives us even less signal, so it's even easier to have something break and we notice weeks or months after. Besides that, I don't have any strong opinion.
If we move them into their own lane, as long as we don't also give them like a GPU instance and stuff, it shouldn't be that expensive. I'd mostly just be worried about people never running them. Like, it's already kind of hard to figure out what tests you need to run. Like, if you don't actually look at the kubelet regularly, and a lot of people who would be reviewing code wouldn't know to either.
And is the ask for clean run still make sure that we investigating, like it's easier to investigate failures, or there are no flakes? What's the main idea here?
If you are talking about the separate lane, like the memory manager doesn't have any flakes under it. Like I copy paste the link on the test grid, and like you can see, it's like always passed. And under the serial lane, sometimes it is failing, like because of the memory fragmentation. Probably again, it just fails to allocate some amount of Hugh pages, and it always a different amount of Hugh pages. So probably it's memory fragmentation. So.
So we already have it in separate tab. It just it also failing in serial.
Yeah, exactly. It just runs also under the separate lane, and it also runs under the serial lane.
Oh, if it's running in two places already,
Yeah, exactly.
just pull
and
it out of serial for now.
I think the same true for the CPU manager and for the topology manager, because again, we don't have some special tags under the test description that will say do not run it under the serial lane or something like this.
Mostly if we remove them from serial, at least file an issue for like, so we get back to like re-adding them in like 124 or whatever, when we fix things a little bit.
And if it's a memory fragmentation issue, even like, I mean, I'm thinking like what kind of cleanup we can make between tests, and like even restart of kubelet wouldn't help, because
in general,
what kind of cleanup will be required?
In general, under the memory manager test, we are trying to run something like compact, like under the kernel we have some like file to compact the memory, but again, it's never guaranteed you that you will it will really release all fragmented memory and will like join it, because it cannot touch kernel, like memory used by the kernel and stuff like this. So, and it also additional question, like how much time it takes to run memory defragmentation under the Linux. Like you don't have any like progress bar or stuff like this. I don't know.
I think this knowledge, we can put it into code. So next time we try to bring it back to serial, we will stumble across this node and re-evaluate whether we did enough to clean up or something.
But in general, just like reducing the amount of Hugh pages that the test should allocate, or increase the amount of memory under the environment should help. You know, it's like because currently we are, like I said, we are asking for 256 Hugh pages. It's like 512 megabytes of memory. Like we can ask for 10 Hugh pages, and like probably it will solve the problem. I know that Alexei says that he will open the pull request for it, but to be honest, I did not see it.
Okay, so the action item to wait for this pull request. If it fails flakes, then we can keep it in serial and even remove the stub. If not, then
Yeah,
add
probably
this
yes.
knowledge into the test and separate it from serial. Okay. Artyom, do you mind to put it as a section into notes?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Okay, is Imran here?
I don't think so. This one carried forward from last week. I think that Imran was just asking for a review on the PR.
Yeah, I remember. I remember the PR. Okay. I think I'm assigned to that, so I will take a look. Mike.
Yes, so I filed this issue a couple of weeks ago to remove some of the features that are no longer in alpha from an alpha job. And as a follow-up item, I was suggesting adding the new jobs, the new features that actually are in alpha to this job. Could we have a list of these jobs that we should add this, or is this not really that important and we can skip it? Somebody already removed the previous jobs, which are no longer in alpha.
Cool. So what's the question?
Could we have a list of features that we need to include here, or should we just wait until the next release to include new features here?
I think we can go through the list of caps for 123. And
Anything that's
just-
already stable, I would say we definitely don't want to have feature tags. For everything
Yeah,
else,
those
I
are no
would-
longer included here. Yeah.
Okay. I think everything else I wouldn't fret too much about.
Sounds good.
Yeah, everything else we should just review that as part of graduation.
Perfect.
I'm not sure what's the name here.
I think that's Jonathan.
It's
He's on the
Jonathan.
call.
Hey, Jonathan.
Hey, all. Nice to meet you all. I guess I can introduce myself. I'm Jonathan Lebon. I work on Fedora Core OS. And recently, like the last few weeks, it came to our attention that Fedora Core OS is actually used by Kubernetes CI for running the Node E2E tests. So we thought we'd finally do the thing that we've been wanting to do for a while, which is hook up the Kubernetes E2E test to our Fedora Core OS CI, just so it's sort of reciprocal in the in coverage. We're not planning to gate on it like soon, but eventually that's the goal. At least for now, it would inform our Fedora Core OS releases, so we know we're not breaking anything in Kubernetes. So this PR here is because essentially in our CI system for Fedora Core OS, we're very heavily invested in QEMU testing. So like basically QEMU is like the backbone of our CI. Just everything runs in QEMU. We do have also tests in like AWS and OpenStack and Azure and stuff like that, but a lot of it is in QEMU. And so the current way that runremote.go works, it's very geared towards, and just the whole harness in general, it's geared towards running things in GCE. But when I actually looked at it, there's nothing really GCE specific about running these tests. Like as long as you have an SSH connection, you can run the tests on via SSH. So I just sort of generalize things a bit so that we can point the run remote to any SSH machine and then just go from there. And that meshes well with our model of QEMU because we can just tell it, okay, run on this QEMU machine.
QEMU is QEMU?
Yes.
Okay. Just
I
wanted
think
to
it's
make sure.
great. Yeah, I think it's like can help a lot of people to debug the stuff.
Yeah, I can take a look at that tomorrow. I think the idea, generally speaking, pretty good. Like forcing the test to always run on GCP is kind of frustrating when it comes to wanting to generalize them across different providers and stuff too.
Yes, we also had, I think, recently some PRs to like skip tests when they were not running like on GCP. So I think we're getting better about that sort of thing.
Yeah, I skimmed it and had like a couple of things I wanted to look into before actually reviewing it.
But also takes in account that we have some cloud init that's configured during the GCE start. Like at least for Hug pages tests, it configures some additional 1 GB Hug pages via kernel arguments or via just allocation. I don't remember it.
Yeah, I can chime in here. So basically for FedorCoreOS, the equivalent of Cloud Init is called Ignition. And so the existing FedorCoreOS test that's running in the Kubernetes CI right now is using Ignition to do. So in this case, for the test, it's about setting up the cryo binary for testing. And so, yeah, we'd be doing the same thing there. But you're right, like there is a subtle change here, because when you do SSH mode, you're sort of leaving the work of provisioning to whoever is passing you the SSH IP, right? So there is something to that has to be reconciled. So there's a trade-off there.
For what it's worth, that's also true when running in GCP mode if you're reusing an existing host. Like the test suite itself and the like provisioning of a host are something that like should be pretty separate anyway. The convenient stuff we have in make test ETE node today is mostly the as a convenience thing. Like things work slightly differently depending on what you're doing stuff anyway, and none of it is tied to an OS. We just rely on GCP's bootstrapping mechanism for that, and if you're using SSH or running locally, that's already not true.
Cool. Okay. There is one more thing I wanted to talk about this, which is I'd like to see if it's possible to take the next step after this, which is basically have a way to prepare all the binaries up front, and then we just sort of upload all the binaries into the host and then run a test there without necessarily having like a test harness. And like right now, for example, to run the test, you literally do go run remote.go, right? But that's a Go binary. So I was thinking like if we could have all that stuff prepared up front, and then it's just, execute this thing on the host and you're done.
There's a flag to run remote that just creates the archive without uploading it. It's not very well documented. But yes, that is technically possible already. 1 second.
So does that, okay, I think that helps a lot, but for running the archive, like how does that work? Like, so you upload the stuff, the archive to the remote via SSH, but is there a way to, does it contain like a copy of run local or something on it?
Not run local. So if you're trying to manually orchestrate how you run the tests, there's a few different things you have to do. And exactly how you'd want to do that kind of gets tricky. But the way it runs today, the run remote copies everything to the remote host, unzips it, and then just runs a binary on the host. And so like you can take out the like middle step of that and just use it to prepare the stuff, copy it yourself, and then run it.
Right. Cool. Yeah, that's where I was going at. I didn't realize this was already supported. Nice.
Feel free to ping me and I can help you figure that out. Mostly I read through an annoying amount of this recently.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Thank you for coming. And did you go to SIG testing already? SIG testing will provide more feedback on that.
No, I kind of just opened the PR and hope for the best.
Okay. Yeah. There is a Slack channel for SIG testing. Maybe you can announce your PR there as well, so it gets some attention. So,
Sure, sounds good. Yeah.
thank you. Mike, do you want to go next?
Sure. I added this one as well. This is a PR too. Basically, we want to run the node swap, the node eviction, memory eviction tests on the swap scenario under the existing eviction tests job. There's a CL, a PR I submitted on the. There's also on the link. Yeah, that one. So if you go to the PR, you'll notice that I proposed using a different image with swap. And a couple of notes. I'm not entirely sure if we're able to run swap on COS. I'm gonna figure this out, but right now I didn't configure it on their COS, only on their Ubuntu. And yeah, I think that's mostly it. And any suggestion would be greatly appreciated. Yeah, I have to review by Daniel.
I have to chime in here because that is very relevant for the CoreOS also. We do support setting up swap via Ignition, so that could be something to look at.
Yeah, let's say assume how it needs to be done. Mostly for this, either only run in Ubuntu and we take that trade-off, or get swap working with CoreOS too.
We have Ignition configs already for swap. For like Fedora CoreOS nodes. So like if you go and hunt around in the same folder that we have the swap configs for like Ubuntu, there's also Ignition configs for Fedora CoreOS. Although I'm not sure if I think there's various ways you can do it, and I think it sets it up after the fact as opposed to like at provisioning time, which I think is just a sort of limitation of our test environment. But
yeah, COS itself is very limited, so I'm not entirely sure if the ways that we're using swap on Ubuntu or Fedora will work the same. For Ubuntu, I just reuse the one that we already have. I'm importing the file on the image. But yeah, I'm gonna research how to do this on COS because I'm not entirely sure this will work as it is right now.
let me try to dig it up for you, and I will see if I can find it. I'll link it if I find it. Yes, it's in the same folder. So here's an Ignition file. I'll put it in the Zoom chat. There's a couple of them in that folder.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah, that's the Ignition file.
Okay, yeah, if that works with COS, I'll just try with that one, then that's good.
Then I guess it sounds like are we at the last agenda item?
I just wanted to understand what's the action item here on this PR. Is it good enough, or it's? I see this comment that it needs to have another test.
Oh yes, I can add another image for this.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll try to run COS with swap with this instruction. If not, I'll research how to do it.
Okay.
Cool. Mostly wanted to avoid like missing coverage that we have today.
Yeah, Ilana, take it away. Attendance.
Yeah, so we ran another one of these. We had reminders in the Slack channel and everything, and we only had 3 people show up last week. And I don't know if it's because people assumed that it was canceled because of KubeCon, even though we had said multiple times we were not canceling because of KubeCon, and we didn't cancel the calendar invite. So I'm not really sure. We continue to have really poor attendance at the alternate time, And a bunch of people keep telling us they can't make any other time, but then they don't show up to the meetings. So I think we have one more scheduled for November, and then maybe we can engage on that. And I mean, given that we, advertise the time as part of our KubeCon talk, we should probably hold that one. But I think after that meeting, if we continue to have poor attendance, I think we should just revert back to the Wednesday time, because if we're not getting a different crowd, then I'm not sure it's valuable to have the other time, especially because I have a conflict at that slot. So I'm skipping another meeting in order to be there. And then if nobody's attending, it's kind of a bummer.
Yeah, I agree. And it's a little bit more convenient to have it same time every week. It just sets the rhythm.
Yeah, for sure.
And do you know if November is some kind of holidays in
I don't
Asia?
think so.
Yeah, I don't
Oh,
think
last
either.
Thursday was a holiday in India, which is probably part of.
Oh, okay. So holiday and KubeCon, it's a bad combination, and all other meetings are canceled. So yeah, this may be the reason for 3 people attending.
Yeah. My only request is that I mean, if folks are watching this on the recording, if there's a major holiday that's a conflict, please tell us, because otherwise we're gonna be like, okay, no one showed up. Why? We haven't been getting any feedback like that, so it's been silence and no one has showed up.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, I think it's fair just to give another run, and then if nobody shows up, come back to once a week, same time. Okay, so we have some time left. Let's go to the board. No one triaged. Okay, we have quite a few. First of all, new tasks.
Flaky unit test.
Right. Anybody wants to take a look at the unit tests?
I will take a look.
Thank you. This is you, right?
Yeah, it's me.
Okay. And here is another race.
If that's a duplicate of that one, then it's not actually Node, it's a storage thing.
Okay. Then triage. And there are 3 PRs for review, and one is a work in progress. So this should
Yeah, I
be
feel like the work in
easy.
progress one I haven't looked at because it needs an OK to test, and this is a work in progress.
I think
We
we've
have
been
Ryan on
seeing
the
some
call
that.
though. Is this still work in progress?
Yes, because there's some misunderstanding about the nature of the issue the peer is trying to fix. So I need to, instead of make a comment to the pull request, I want to make a proper doc for the migration.
Hey Arno, and thank you.
Thank you. CPU affinity and container resources.
I don't think this
Francesco
is a
already reviewed
test
it.
PR.
Yeah, I think we kept it
This is
because
a
there's
feature PR.
a lot of tests.
I see.
Oh, not a lot of tests.
Yeah, I think this is the case. We changes in the test area.
Yeah. So we kept it here. So Francesco, you already looking at that?
Yep, I am. Feel free
Can I assign it
to.
to you?
Yeah, of course. Thanks.
API change. Okay, and pre-pull images. Do we already pre-pull images?
Yeah, exactly. Don't we do already this?
Yeah. How many times do we need to pre-pull?
I don't know. Oh, this is it's because we pre-pull, I think, and then the E2E underscore node, but this is E2E slash stuff. So it's possible that in the other E2E tests we don't. This also appears to be like much more than Node. I have not seen a Node test yet, actually.
Interesting.
It also looks like there's just some general refactoring that's happening here.
Change of pattern, yeah. So that's another parameter here.
Oh, okay, it's like literally just at the very bottom is the node file. I would say this probably isn't us.
Yeah. Is sig placing here?
Yeah. And apps and network.
Windows. Okay. Let's sig placing deal with that. Oops.
That's
okay. A few waiting on other, but I reviewed that they all either hold or work in progress. So it should be fine.
it's looking pretty good. Do you want to do bugs?
Yes. We have 30 minutes left. Let's go to bugs. Wrong dashboard.
I don't think
There we go.
I don't think that's the dashboard. I think that's a query.
Okay.
It's 59 is the
I
dashboard
have
number.
I have a quick link here. Okay.
I thought I closed this one.
Yes, exactly. Yes, I was going to say that. You answered to this.
Reopen.
Okay, so what they're asking is they're asking for a feature. So I would remove kind bug and add kind feature, and then we can take it off of the board. I can take it off the board.
Do we remove it?
Yeah, I'll just remove it in case they tag it again. I don't think that's a bug. I think that we don't want to give everybody random capabilities. And if you want them, you should add them.
Yeah, but I think he specified privilege true and also added the capabilities like he's nice. So in general, with such privileges, he should like available to run any syscall.
Well, I think that they shouldn't be just randomly specifying privilege true on C things. They should say if you need a particular capability, add that capability. This seems like a support request. They don't know how to add capabilities to their pods.
No documentation.
Let me.
He also
Dig this
specified
up.
that he expected non-root user to be able to create it. So maybe it's the problem.
Well, I am not 100% sure. Here we go. Okay, here we go, set capabilities for container. It's in the docs. I can link him this and then I will close the issue.
Okay, so you're taking care of that.
Yes,
Is there?
done.
Yeah. Do we need to update documentation saying?
No, we already have documentation. They just didn't read it.
Okay. I'll take a look later. Okay, does work on GPU resource. Okay, first of all, it's very old. Same problem on 116.
What YAML file?
I think this one.
Oh, let's just put that it needs more information.
Need or needs? I forgot.
Needs. I can just do. I'll do a. Yeah, I'll put that in the. You've done it. Good.
Fix the condition of for pod exec default values.
This looks like an API documentation thing.
Yeah, I think. Sure. I mean, if we saying wrong things here, it needs to be fixed.
I'll check the blame real quick. Oh, this file is big. yeah, that defaults to true comment is 6 years old, so I think it's just outdated. Oh, the person who filed it already assigned themselves, so I think they have a
Zero
PR up.
PR.
Yeah.
We have 5 more minutes. Maybe we can take a couple more. This is USB devices are not available in pod.
Someone marked this as support already. This is absolutely a support request. We should just close this. I have a canned support request thing.
Yeah, this is
Done. Oh, that's
this is about beta feature graceful node termination. We
yes.
discussed on SIG Node, so I'll accept it.
Cool.
Okay.
Are we sure that you want that though? Because we've had issues with so to give you some context, when pods start getting marked for deletion, if you keep running probes on them, so liveness probes are really the big problem. If you keep running probes on them after they've been marked for deletion, like they're marked for deletion, right? So you shouldn't be routing traffic to them. So readiness should be false. If you keep running probes on them, especially if you keep running liveness probes on them, but the pods are shutting down, those probes are going to start returning false, and it causes all sorts of weird behavior, including like some things trying to restart pods due to races. So it seems to me like we absolutely should be setting readiness to false when things are gracefully terminating. So I'm not sure that this is correct.
I don't think we set readiness to false in the PR. So I think we nothing sets readiness to false.
Well, once we stop
it's
running
still
the thing
ready.
and it's terminating, no, it shouldn't still be ready. I don't think we still want readiness probes to keep running. This doesn't explain why we want the readiness probes to keep running. It just says we do.
My biggest concern is to make sure it's not ready, at least. So we need to understand if it will be marked as
But this
non-ready.
could potentially be marking it as ready if it continues to run and the thing isn't terminated yet. But I think as soon as we mark the node for graceful shutdown, we want to turn all the readiness probes to false. It's possible that it's not doing that for some reason, but then I think the bug is different. It's not that the probes aren't running, but rather the last run of the probes didn't set it to false.
Yeah, I'm not sure about whether we need to keep running it or not keep running. What if like termination period is like 1 hour, and then during this 1 hour, it's something like there's like pre-stop hook that doing some cleanup work, but pod can still serve traffic.
Yeah, well, so the idea of those things would be that pods could still continue to serve requests that were like already in flight, but they're not serving any new requests. The load balancer isn't like readiness probe really means is a Kubernetes service going to load balance traffic towards the thing, and you don't want that if your node is shutting down. You want the node to shut down. So
yeah, I agree with Elena. Yes.
My only concern is if we mark this as triage accepted, Shuming has a revert open on this, and I'm not actually sure we want to do the revert. So I will put a hold on it.
Yeah, I guess the confusion I had here was just a little bit around the PR that we had. If it's like basically what the behavior of that PR is with respect to readiness probes, because the PR basically just removed all probes, if I understand correctly. So I wasn't sure if that was the correct behavior or not. So I think we just need to do a little more digging into how to maybe, set the readiness to false or something like that when the shutdown happens versus just stopping all probes. Yeah.
I'm curious what will happen if pod is still in startup mode, if startup props are still running. Mostly just curious. I don't see any problems there. Just
Yeah. I just threw a hold on the revert PR, so I think that that should be enough. And then I'll also just link that back to the issue, and I'll put a comment on there along those lines. And I think we're out of time.
Yep. Yeah, at time.
Yes, Sergey, maybe you can CC me on this as well.
Yeah, I'll CC you, Matthias.
Thanks.
Thank you everybody. Good
Thank
meeting.
you, Sergey.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks. Have a good day.